So, with the election of the new school board came the implementation of the Athletic Advisory Board and the evaluator's position and all of this crap.
Just more bureaucracy, taking power out of the hands of the people whose job it is to make these decisions in the principal and the athletic director. And, maybe not for reasons that are truly for the betterment of any sports program in the county, but for reasons of...
There's no way you're going to better a sports program by evaluating the Mike Reynoldses and Ryan Brownings of the world. You know what? Maybe Coach Jones should have been up for evaluation. He exited in the first round of the tournament. The team sort of started dropping off towards the end of the year. But, that's not what they used. All of a sudden, this witch hunt happens. Oh, he's running an illegal gambling racket, is the rumor floating around. There's meetings at the school between him and the interim director of schools. He's supposedly running an NCAA bracket for money, which turned out not to be true. And frankly, you go to a workplace and find me one that's not running an NCAA bracket, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, everybody runs.
Right now, everybody's got one.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I've walked into the... Years ago, now this has been years ago, when it was still the BP station across from the police department. I walked in there before and saw ball boards laying on the counter in the open for you to be on. It's just a common thing, and everybody knows it's a common thing.
Yeah, it's not like they were betting on... Even if money were involved, it wasn't like he was pulling students into this terrible poker ring, or they were betting on the outcome of high school games. It's the NCAA tournament.
It was just, a bracket. There's a free bracket up on the volunteer time site.
Absolutely.
Everybody feels a bracket out. It's just part of March Madness.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best postseason in sports.
And if you're a basketball coach, it's natural that you would be interested in that.
I'm sure there are other basketball coaches in the county doing these brackets. I'm sure there's basketball coaches in every county doing these brackets. That's neither here nor there. But since it was Barry Jones, and since, it appears that certain elements are out to get him, Barry had to be witch hunted. They had the people with pitchforks and torches waiting on him, apparently.
You got rumors swirling about him constantly. I don't blame him for resigning. That you don't want to put your family through all that for what's essentially really not that great of a paying position.
Right. I mean, at most, he's probably getting a $5,000 supplement in addition to his teacher's pay. And let me tell you something. As a coach, you might as well have a second 40-hour-a-week job.
Just think of it. That's putting in another job for way less than minimum wage at that point.
You put a lot of work into coaching.
You put your heart into it. You put your time into it. You don't get a lot of money from the county for this either. The kids have to raise the money.
Right. The county does not fund. I don't care what any of you have heard. The county does not, outside of the supplements, gives no money to any sports. Yeah. At Jacksboro Middle School, for example, basically football and basketball fund all the spring sports, and probably are even able to give a little. The same thing at LaFollette, especially LaFollette basketball generally has huge crowds. Jacksboro had good crowds. Both football teams had good crowds. Campbell County is even more so. Campbell County football, the way other organizations at Campbell County raise money is they sell concessions at the football and basketball games.
They sell, and if they're not in the concessions, they're selling stuff.
Right.
At the
ball games. You see these car washes on the sides of the road for cheerleading and some of the other sports. That's where they get their money. It's important to support that.
Right. I mean, because like I said, these are kids that are still playing for the fun of the game.
They get out and they work just to have
softball girls were going out asking people to sponsor them so that they could play and get uniforms and stuff.
Even at Jacksboro Middle School, I'm speaking from personal experience, and Luke was there too. We sold the discount cards because even as much money as we brought in, it's never enough. Football's expensive as heck.
Especially you got uniforms, you got pads.
So
support these kids.
Coach Jones is gone now. Who knows who the next coach is going to be? Who knows who's going to want the job at this point?
Why would you want the job at this point?
You know,
Really?
you saw with Browning, and for example, that you can have a great season, one of the best seasons you've had, and still have to go before this advisory board and answer these questions.
So I'm going to call out to the school board right now. I'm talking to you, Josh Parker, to you, Mike Orick, Scott Hill, Homer Rutherford, Johnny Creekmore. You're on the athletic advisory board. Next meeting, one of you needs to make the motion to disband this disgraceful, does not need to be their board.
You know, another issue with the board is, you know, how the meetings are held.
Right.
I'm going to tell a story. David Graham, sports director at WLAF. Every bit as much a member of the sporting media as myself, as Dwayne Wilder, as Jim Wogan at Channel 6. Folks like that. He goes to cover the meeting.
David, he covers lots of sports.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's there. He really and truly does it for the love of what he's doing. He loves covering sports. He loves promoting the youth.
For instance, he heard that, I guess somehow that this meeting was going to happen.
And he went down to cover this. It's news. It's newsworthy.
Very much.
These are all taxpayer-funded officials having this meeting too, mind you.
They told him he couldn't go into the meeting. Well, here's where the problem with that lies. Johnny Burge was in the meeting with Ryan Browning. And what I've been told, Director Miller was in the meeting with Ryan Browning. They're members of the school board. When two or more members of an elected body meet, there's this little thing called the Sunshine Law. Unless it is an executive session with an attorney present, and no decisions can be made during an executive session, they have to be voted on an open council. You cannot keep the public and the media out of a meeting. It can't be done by law. I talked to somebody who told me about one evaluation where there were 4 school board members present, and I guarantee if myself, David Graham, Dwayne Wilder would have showed up, we would not have been allowed in the meeting.
These meetings, I'm not sure how David found out about it. They've not been announced to the public, and that's
At all.
not a requirement for these Sunshine Laws. You have to announce that you're going to have a meeting.
You know, and I was told, if you go to one of these meetings, you pull out your copy. I've got a copy of the Sunshine Law somewhere. We actually have a copy of it on the Times website. Said then, if they don't let you in the meeting, you go see Dave Dunaway. Well, let's be honest. Campbell County schools do not have a good track record against Mr. Dunaway.
No.
And, you know, it's one of those things, you got to do what's right. Not what your agenda is. And I'm afraid there's too many people with an agenda out there with these athletic advisory boards. Why have an athletic director? Why, you know, why? I mean, is Sherry Chapman a paper tiger? She shouldn't be.
She knows about much sports as anybody in the county.
Same thing with Johnny Bruce at Jacksboro Middle
Yes.
School and Jason Dodson at La Follette Middle School.
Yeah.
And Dino Oaks up at Jellicoe. These are the people, along with their principals, that should be making personnel decisions with coaching. Not some committee that meets and, oh, how you doing, buddy? Pats each other on the back, talks about how good they do, and then, you know, make decisions based on other agendas.
You know,
Okay.
you need to purely look at it from the sport standpoint, and you know, you need to talk to the kids about this stuff.
And like I said, I do know for a fact in the evaluation process, Johnny Bruce interviews, I know during basketball season, he interviewed 2 players from each basketball team.
So we're not sure who's going to fill the Campbell County job and who will want the Campbell County
Well,
job with this much interference.
I mean, in all honesty, we've got 2 great middle school coaches. Jason has had a great deal of success at La Follette. I have no doubt he could step up to the high school level, but I don't know that he would want to leave from being athletic director at La Follette and La Follette's basketball coach to go up there and, you know, basically take over a job that has a black storm cloud hanging over it. Matt Housley at Jacksboro. Not quite as experienced, but great basketball knowledge. Played college basketball down at Bryan College.
He's a very enthusiastic and
Very.
very popular coach with his kids.
And, you know, I mean, he'd probably do well at it. Again, I don't know that I would leave Jacksboro Middle School, you know, for the, you know, job where the dragon of the athletic advisory board could swoop down upon you, and not that they couldn't at Jacksboro, but...
Yeah, it's more high profile at the high school level. Though.
Right, and there's more expectations because
and frankly,
so much history.
Even back when, to the extent, you know, years ago and through the years, a lot of politics have been involved in the basketball
Oh,
team.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, Lynn Pierce's first run, there was some dark shadows there. You know, there was lawsuits filed. You know, Arch Litch is angered. You know, a lot of bad things happened. But, you know, he got through it. When he finally gave up coaching, Rick Hundley stepped in. Rick had some really good teams.
Rick was a solid coach.
You know, I mean, he did well when he went and coached at La Follette and did really well later on. You know, Rick is an excellent basketball coach. I've actually had people ask if I thought Rick would take it back. I don't see it happening.
You know, you get parents who get too emotionally involved in the sport. It's good to support your kids, and you have to support your children.
Well, okay, another example.
You shouldn't get that emotionally involved.
Well, what Coach Jones went through.
It's just like the Pierce storm out and what he's about to tell you about Coach Jones.
Student involved in the incident that was kicked off the team. We talked of earlier, transfers to Halls to play basketball. Student's father, member of the school board, comes to the Campbell County Halls game, which I didn't get to go to because it was a Jacksboro La Follette game that night, I believe. And at the time, I was also announcing Jacksboro and running their clock. So obviously, I had to be there. And I've had several people tell me, one of which is a student who I trust implicitly. This kid has no reason to lie to me. I've known him since he was 4 years old. Said that the school board member and Coach Jones got into a heated argument, and there may have been some shoving. I'm going to hold judgment on that, but a school board member of Campbell County dressed in Halls attire got into a confrontation with Campbell County's basketball coach at the Halls game. Also, said school board member, from what I understand, told Robbie Heatherly that he had to hush the student section from saying anything, you know, bad. Who does that?
You can't try to calm your fans down. That's the opposite effect you want to have in the game.
Right.
So,
The fans are there. They want to be loud to support their team.
That's like telling Mike Hamilton to run out in front of the student section of the UT Florida game and tell them to calm down and not say mean things about Urban Meyer or Tim Tebow.
So I'm going to say it right now. If you're a Campbell County School Board member, you want to refute what I'm saying, if you're a member of this disgraceful athletic advisory board, you want to refute what I'm saying, next week. Or any week, but especially next week, come on this show. We're taping it on Saturday. If you have documentation, I get to see it before you bring it on because it's my show. But I will give you your time to talk. Fans, we're going to wrap up this episode of Sports Chat. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is the first of many. Now I'm going to leave it with this. Folks, if you can't feel it,
Don't sell.
we're out of here.